This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming today talking about the economy and consumer debt. And it seems like 2008 is right around the corner, ready to happen again. I came across this great article from mybudget360.com. The secret to the current recovery is that American households are up to their eyeballs in debt once again. Seems like we never learn, but the number for the amount of debt really stuck out to me, and that's why I took the chance to read it, and I'm going to go over it in today's video. Consumer credit hits a record 3.7 trillion. Again, anything over $1 trillion is definitely in a bubble. Even when we say these numbers, we take it so lightly because $1 trillion is passed around like $100. But again, definitely an article you need to take a look at and pay attention to. I'm going to start reading some of the excerpts from it because, it struck out to my attention. It's showing that we're hitting that same numbers again, and we're going to repeat the same problems that we had in the past. Do you notice more credit cards offering hitting your mailbox? I definitely know that from personal sake. Are you noticing more easy financing for purchasing a new car? Welcome to the new recovery, where spending is being fueled by consumer credit. Once again, people are spending beyond their means. Nothing new, but the number again, 3.7 trillion. In an economy driven by consumption, you need to keep people spending and splurging to keep the machine moving. Yet this recovery is being driven down by massive consumer debt. We now have record credit card debt, record student debt, and record auto debt. None of these sources of debt really builds wealth in the long run. That's absolutely true. And banks are once again going into the subprime trenches just to find consumers to lend to. The Great Recession was really the Great Credit Crisis, and here we are going again, deep into debt again. Consumer debt hits a record level. Consumer credit has now hit a record level of 3.7 trillion. The last time the problem was with subprime borrowing, but going again, the main avenue, that the main issue here is always debt. This segment of credit is not really beneficial in building long-term wealth, especially if you look at credit card debt or auto loans. This is simply spending future earnings today. A blended active approach, quantitative analysis plus human skill. Total consumer credit is now at 3.7 trillion. That is an 800 billion increase in merely 5 years. People are yanking out those credit cards. And honestly, if they continually to give you them, the issue doesn't come if they continue to give you the credit cards. It becomes when you can't service the payment. Credit cards, personal loans are signing away years of work for new cars. This is a big problem, especially with households already deep into debt into multiple forms. And the article goes on to show the total debt balance in this composition. And it's a good choice right here to show how it works in that point. Credit card debt is now at a record level, surging over 1 trillion. The amount of debt owed by Americans, which receded in the wake of the financial crisis, is again on the rise. Outstanding credit card debt, the total balance that consumers roll from month to month, hits a record 1 trillion this year. Again, that number 1 trillion is always the benchmark to show that we're in a bubble, and a bubble usually looks for a pin for it to deflate. According to the Federal Reserve, the number of Americans with at least one credit card has reached 171 million, the highest level in more than a decade, according to TransUnion, a credit reporting company. Now, TransUnion is one of the largest of the 3 credit bureau agencies. And this is problematic because stagnant wages are simply added fuel to the flame, and Americans are using credit cards as a stopgap measure. Again, because income has not increased, jobs are part-time, and the people are utilizing credit cards just to get by. And that always signifies a problem. That business model is increasingly lucrative. Many consumers, their wage stagnant and their costs rising and growing, relying on credit cards for essential goods and services. Worth repeating again. The business model is increasingly lucrative. Many consumers, their wages stagnant and their costs rising, are growing, reliant on credit cards for essential goods and services, including medical and dental care. Across the industry, profits rose in the latest quarter. Being that I was one time in actually the consumer credit card counseling, I used to see this all the time. I couldn't imagine the staggering amounts of debts that people would take on, especially that baby boomer class who take on massive amounts and just won't know about it because you're not in the space. But it was average to see me at least $30,000 or $40,000 just in credit card debts when the average Social Security check was only less than $1,000. I've seen way in the excess of 70, 80,000. I can speak from that personally. But the article, again, is worth your attention, and definitely I'm reading it because 3.7 trillion and the credit cards here at 1 trillion is definitely a sign of a bubble, and that every time a bubble happens, it always looks for a pop. So what you have, I'm going to read another part of it, which just stuck out. What you have are people simply trying to keep up with the shrinking middle class base. This is fine when you can make the minimum payments, but what happens if we have a minor recession? Very good point to repeat again. It's fine when you can make the minimum payments, but what happens if we have a minor recession? What happens when an inevitable correction hits? The house of cards comes crumbling down again. The recovery is largely looking like one built on debt spending. We are now in a phase where even a tiny recession will send the system into a severe shock. The credit craze is back again. Just look in your mail. And if anyone could check their mail, they're probably getting offers from all forms of credit cards, all forms of auto loans, all forms of subprime loans as well, just to keep this thing going. Debt and credit is the new money. But again, even when you're creating credit debt, it always ends badly. And again, we have never seemed to learn, even though we've just been here maybe less than 8 to 9 years ago, and we're right back to 3.7 trillion between student loans, credit cards, and auto loans. Definitely worth your attention. Take a look at it, My Budget 360. Until my next video, I'm out.